You're listening to The Signal Daily.
Hello, I'm Manaswini, your host for the Signal Daily podcast. This is the episode for 17th May 2024. In our first segment, we talk about the problem with fake reviews on e-commerce platforms, how it affects consumers, and how there's a dire need for a mechanism to weed out this issue. And for the second segment, we are taking a look at how the Canadian dream is now losing its appeal for Indian students. E-commerce has made shopping easier for sure. But tell me something. How do you usually go about shopping online? Do you check reviews of a product before you buy it? I mean, how else do you even verify the authenticity of something that is being sold online? And yet, you know what? Even after everything checked out, I still got scammed a couple of times. I mean, there are so many booby traps out there for consumers when it comes to e-commerce, but fake reviews is by far one of the most mainstream ones. So the Indian government is thinking about a serious crackdown on fake reviews. There are some obviously spurious looking e-commerce platforms, but even the supposedly trustworthy platforms for retail, food and travel, like Amazon, Flipkart, Myntra, TripAdvisor, Booking.com or Swiggy, etc., are rife with fake reviews. It's such a global menace that in 2021, the World Economic Forum pegged it to be a $152 billion problem. Yep, that's the estimated economic impact that fake reviews have on global e-commerce. And chances are that the actual figure could be much higher. And the thing is, there is no way to distinguish between fake and real reviews. It's all a very elaborately planned scam that includes commission structures and loyalty schemes in its playbook. Sometimes it's a paid review, or in certain cases, companies even get in touch with actual customers and offer cash rewards or discounts or merch in return for a positive testimonial. As a cap table article points out, affiliates play such an important role for D2C companies because they boost sales and algorithms become favorable, and technically it's not an illegal thing to do. So the point is, even if a consumer is really careful, they could be susceptible to fake reviews. In fact, according to a Mint report, complaints registered on the National Consumer Helpline against fake reviews surged from 95,270 in 2018 to 4,44,034 in 2023. And that's a 5x jump. And 43% of all consumer complaints are now about fake reviews. So now the bigger platforms might treat this issue seriously because obviously this dents their credibility. But a lot of them might not. So the big question remains, what kind of a mechanism will restore consumers' faith? So in 2022, the Department of Consumer Affairs, along with the Bureau of Indian Standards or BIS, had launched a framework titled Indian Standard 19,000-2022, Online Consumer Reviews Principles and Requirements for the Collection, Moderation and Publication, to basically weed out the fake review problem. This framework was put together in collaboration with major online platforms such as Google, Meta, Amazon, Flipkart, and voluntary consumer associations. So now, this document prescribed responsibilities on e-commerce platforms to, review and more review and develop a code of practice. It even made some quality control suggestions, like the organization cannot publish consumer reviews online collected with a bias, objective, and prejudice, or edit reviews to alter their message or discourage people from submitting negative reviews. But this compliance is not mandatory, it's voluntary. And looking at the number of consumer complaints against fake reviews in 2023, you can tell that it didn't work too well. So the government has gone back to the drawing board with various stakeholders, and a draft of quality control order will be placed for public consultation for submitting comments with a prescribed time frame. But as you can see, the problem is so complex that it certainly won't be an easy task to figure out an effective framework. For our second segment, we are going to bring you deep dives on stories from the world of technology, business, policy, and anything that leaves you with food for thought. For the longest time, Canada was the promised land for Indian students seeking a world-class education and a path to permanent residency. I mean, truth be told, studying in the Great White North was the ultimate dream. But lately, that dream has been fading fast. The thriving pipeline of Indian students making their way to Canada has slowed to a trickle. And the reason for this dramatic shift are multifaceted. So, see, up until recently, Canada ranked among the top destinations worldwide for Indian students. It had those prestigious universities and relatively open immigration policies to offer. In fact, Indian students form the largest group of international students in Canada. But then the latter half of 2023 brought an 86% decline in study permits issued to Indians. Yes, 86%. And according to an Economic Times report, there's been a quite a dip, about 40 to 45% in the number of Indian students eyeing those top Canadian universities this year. Take the University of Toronto, for example. It's one of the top universities there, and it witnessed a 40% drop in applications from Indian students. So, what's the issue here? This exodus likely stems from a combination of diplomatic tensions between India and Canada, plus major roadblocks facing international students within Canada itself. One of the biggest issues is the perfect storm of housing and job crisis there. And while they have fueled economic growth, they have also contributed to a severe housing shortage. Some landlords have shamelessly exploited these students, demanding excessive upfront payments for cramped, substandard, and even illegal accommodations. The job situation hasn't been much better either. As Canada's economy cooled off, unemployment climbed, leaving international students struggling to land even a part-time job. Some have been forced into low-wage work, diminishing Canada's real appeal. But the challenges don't just end there. In a move that blindsided many, the Canadian government hiked the required Guaranteed Investment Certificate, or GIC, from 10,000 Canadian dollars to all the way up to over 20,000 Canadian dollars. So essentially, education there has become very expensive. Plus, Canada's new student permit rules have poured salt in the wound. Now, only postgrads at public colleges qualify for open work permits or spouse visas. Meanwhile, undergrads and those at private colleges get shut out. And unsurprisingly, capping international students has crippled the immigration business in India while punching holes in Canada's own revenues. Agents who once facilitated the Indian student influx are now facing downsizing. And it's not just Canada. Only recently we talked about how Indian students in the US, even those from top Ivy League schools, are finding it tough to land internships because of the economic slowdown and the current election season. In Australia too, rising housing costs and housing shortage are making it difficult for many Indian students to pursue their study abroad dreams. On top of that, the Australian government has tightened visa rules, now requiring international students to have savings equal to 75% of the national minimum wage, which is pretty steep for most Indian applicants. But you'll be surprised to know that even after so many hurdles, last year a record 11.9 lakh passports got issued in Punjab alone. So where are these Indian students turning to instead? Well, according to the Student Mobility Report 2023 and 2024, more and more students are choosing the likes of Germany, Ireland, Singapore, France, and New Zealand as their new go-to-study destinations. In fact, immigration consultants in Chandigarh have reportedly swapped out their study in Canada ads for European and oceanic nations with more affordable programs. Although clearly, as things keep getting tougher year after year, I can't help but wonder if Indians will ever ditch their NRI dreams. If you like listening to The Signal Daily, please show us some support. Rate us and review us on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We'd love to hear what you have to say about this podcast. So feel free to shoot an email at hello@thesignal.co. The episode was researched, written and produced by Shorbury and me, Manaswini, edited by Dinesh Narayanan, mastered and mixed by Yash Hirve. You can catch this podcast every morning on Spotify, Apple, Amazon Prime Music, Google Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. We are thesignal.co on Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter.